Hello, welcome to this webinar. My name is Jeremy Miranda, and today's webinar is about the topic of how to create or search for items in marketing documents. But this topic is very interesting because we got a lot of feedback from our customers, and we got the idea precisely from them to create this webinar and this example. What is this example about, or how it was born? What is the scenario? Well, a lot of customers, they have some very important fields, for example, in master data models, most specifically the items. So, and sometimes they use a lot of fields to add very important information, like the additional ID or some specifications that we have. For example, I don't know, color, size, version, uh, country, a scenario, or something like that. But this could be used in SAP standard fields that they take to add this information, or maybe they add some user-defined fields. And what happens? Well, they say, okay, I want to add the items in the marketing documents when I'm creating a quotations, when I'm creating, for example, a sales order. In some cases, I have new sales employees. They don't know all the specifications about the fields, about the items, or for example, they want to search for a specific item by color or by group. And in some cases, the customers, they have this information only in the description, and sometimes it's not that user friendly to find or to filter according to the different items or scenarios. So I created this example based on one of our success stories. An end customer called Tecnibandas, located in Mexico. They sell coverall belts. When you have a huge company and you have to transport the items or from one place to another, these use these special industrial belts. And when a customer calls, they receive a call. They say, "Oh, hey, do you have this special item for this station, or to be able to support this temperature? Or do you have, the width of, I don't know, 2 inches or so?" And the sales employees, they filter this information by these specifications, so they don't have to search for them, especially if they're new, in all the items structure or the items list. So that is why we created this kind of search. And other customers that use these scenarios, for example, they sell tires. I'm a user as well. I got a flat tire in my car, so I went to this or I called to ask for different quotation, and I told them, hey, you know what, I don't know the model, but I have this car, and I need a 15 inches tire, and please, to be very good with rain and so on. So I did mention the specifications instead of calling for asking for a specific product. So that is why we created this kind of searches. So what do we have to do first? Well, if we are going to add this feature or this configuration to the customers, first they need to tell us, okay, which items or which fields we want to include in our search. In this case, for this example, I included the item group, which is a standard SAP field, but I also included two user-defined fields, name, color, and size. Okay. So once that I identify these fields, and of course the user-defined fields, I include them into the main screen user, the item placement tool we have with a right click only. So now that we have this field, we can create a query that is going to return the information. And of course, this query, we need to consider to add the search fields, the variables that in this case are those three fields that I mentioned in the previous slide. So I just added a query. This query must run in the query manager. And then after I create a query with, of course, including all the columns that I need that are important for this customer, for example, that are relevant, and the grouping, of course, you have to identify that. Then I take this query that I'm sure it runs in the query manager, and I place it in an universal function type SQL. And now that I have the function, I add a button and then I search for the items. It sounds very easy, and it is. I think the only complicated part is the creation of the query, because some customers may ask for additional information, additional conditions, and for example, if it's a specific customer, or if the customer selected belongs to a customer group, then you have to add more filters and more validations. But the configuration needed, the universal function type SQL, the button, it's quite easy to set up and use the standard B1 usability package tools. Let me show you this example. I have a demo database over here. So what I did is, here in the sales quotation, I created this button using the buttons model here, and now I already have my buttons in my screen. But basically, I add this function button into this window. Now I'm going to select edit, and I created this universal function. As you can see, my button setup, it says I want to execute a universal function, and I create it, and I'm using this query. This query is really simple. Basically, I'm using two tables: the item master data table, the items group table, with the union. And only my condition, the tricky part of this query is to have the variable optional. So to have it optional, I use this, if you use this standard syntax here, this is the standard syntax that you use in SAP to add variables into the configuration, into the query manager. That is what I mentioned. If it works in the query manager, then it will work with the B1UP functionality, and it does. It runs. I created there. What I did is I opened tools. I use queries, query generator. I added these two tables. I select the columns, and I added my conditions, because I want to be able to filter by items group name, by color, and by size. And then these are my optional configurations. I'm gonna leave it up for a moment so you can take your screenshot if you need it, so you can start the example, and that's fine. So I added this universal function, and now that I have it here, if I select a customer, now I have this pop-up window, and I can select the different options of these fields. I select them to be blank because I want them to be optional. I didn't want them to have like a default default value, because in some cases, maybe I don't know the item group, but I want only the items that are color blue, and I get this report with all the items in my catalog, in my item master data, that are blue, using only this kind of query or syntax or condition. But how I display these variables window, how I name these fields, how I make these values to be, the first one to be empty, and so on. Well, I added my query, and then here in my universal function configuration, I opened this wizard. And in this wizard, what I did was to select the source to be an SQL, because I already have different options. If I use a variable, imagine that I'm using a fourth variable, well, I can directly select the table from here. Actually, the item group table was already included in here in this list. Let me search for it so you can see it. Here it is, item group. But I didn't select the table. Because if I selected the table directly, just like in SAP, it's gonna suggest the first item. It's gonna suggest the first, or the first result of the table, and I didn't want to. Again, I want it to be blank, because maybe I want to see all the items from a color and not from an item group. So that is why I want it to be blank. So I selected the option SQL. I added the caption. This is the labels that you will see in the variables window, which, by the way, you can also edit the title. And I use a query. In this query, I'm only selecting. This is a select that is going to return empty values. And then with a union, I have a simple query that is going to return the items group name, or the same with the color, and the same with the size. Here it is. I'm actually using this trick to get this query executed. Uh, Actually, if I do a copy paste and if I go to the query generator to test it, here it is. It's executed, and as you can see, it's going to return the first value blank. So if I delete it, I will get this. But this is the idea. This is the idea that I don't want to get this value returned automatically. I want it to be blank, so that's why I use this little syntax. It's a little SQL trick into this option, and the result of this query of this SQL is going to be the list displayed in the variables window that I just created for my SQL report. Now, another thing that you may ask is like, okay, Jeremy, you want the all the blue items, okay? You found it here, but do you have to do like a copy paste to add it here into the main screen? It's not very nice. It's not usability. Actually, the report is really ugly. It's even uglier or very bad if I compare it to the query manager list. But don't worry. If we are using a universal function type SQL, we can improve it. We can enhance the functionality. For example, let's start with the banded road color. It's already selected. So when I open my report and get some results, well, this is only one. Let me search again for my blue items that I know there are several. If you can see, there's a different highlight color, different gray colors to highlight the lines. So you can really identify, for example, this one with this stock quantity of 499, and you easily will see that is the print label. So let's edit a little bit more. I want to see the line numbers, okay? I just mark this checkbox, hit on update, and if I execute this report again with my blue printers, now I have the lines. Now let me keep this window open so I can see what I need to do. Well, I'm gonna open my wizard and I'm gonna change the title of my columns. This is the items group, the code, sorry, the name of the item, the color, because I don't want to have the capital letters and the U over there, the size, and the stock quantity, right? But I also want to be able to open the items code from over here. So in this column, I select, okay, I'm sorry, this is not the one. This is, leave it blank, and here is the second column. Here I have the items, and the quantity column I want to be right justified, but I want to be able to search by name as well. Okay, I want a search field over here because I want to be able to filter in this report. And what else? Well, that's pretty much it at this moment. Okay, this is the only configuration I'm going to add so you can see the changes. If I execute my report again, the black items, for example, this is here. Now I have my columns, I have the codes, and I want this, the card. Here it is. It's going to highlight it so I can find it easily. I only selected to be able to search in this column, but as you can see, you can select the different colors to be able to search in this window. Another thing that I will add to this is that I want to group. I want to collapse because I'm gonna unmark this checkbox because I want to be able to group or see a grouping, because maybe I want, or no, I don't want the printers, I don't want the rainbow printers, I want the printers only. So now I can group by the items group by the first column. Here it is. But still I want this information to be copied directly into my report because this is the functionality that I want. In SAP, you can open a different view, you can search as well, and you can copy directly from into the grid. I want that functionality as well. Well, I'm going to enable the system information, and using a B1 usability package functionality, with a right click, I have this right menu option that says copy system information, and I can see the internal or the SAP name or syntax, if you want to name it, the dynamic syntax for this field. And here in this report, if I executed, the first column is the items group name. I don't need it in here. I need to copy the item code. So I'm going to use this select data target. This option works or is used to copy information into a previous screen. You know, the screen that was open before I double click or I executed this report. So the first column, I'm not gonna need it, so I'm gonna leave it blank and use a semicolon separate, and then add the dynamic syntax of the field where I want to copy the information. So I'm gonna update this. I'm gonna search for my items again. I want my items that are blue. I execute my report. I have it here. I have enough stock, and with a double click, it's copied like in SAP. So, okay, I'm gonna filter by blue, the ones that are small. Okay, you see the results are even, the list is even smaller. So here it is. Or if I only want to search for this item group, I can do it. And if I want to select multiple results, well, I'm hitting the control key in my computer, in my keyboard. So with a control hidden, I can do a double click and copy several items at the same time. So as you can see, there's no need to change this SAP screen. There's no need to add uh, formatted searches that in some cases are not that user friendly, or they don't have enough information or filters to enhance this functionality. But here you can create your own search items button with all the variables that you need. In this case, I only have 3. The other customers I mentioned, they have up to 6 because of the different functions or the different uh, uh, configurations that they need to search for the items. But using a query and the universal function configuration type SQL, you can enhance the search functionality in marketing documents. And of course, you can use this button or the same universal function. You can go, for example, to the sales orders, add a button and link to the same universal function. You don't have to duplicate it or create it twice. You can use the same because we're using multiple dynamic syntax, and the syntax, the name of the field or the syntax of the field is the same in both marketing documents, so it will work. So do you have any questions? No? Well, thank you so much for joining this short webinar. I hope you like it. Please send us your feedback, and remember that this webinar will be available on YouTube in the next few days. So stay tuned, and of course, join the other webinars that we have planned. Thank you so much.